Hey everybody, Sam here, Reloved Guitars. We've got a Morris and we've got an interesting inverted commas custom build guitar in, and this is an interesting one that it's sort of the typical Reloved Guitars thing really. Uwe in Germany has found this in UK for sale from a UK seller on eBay, and the seller wasn't happy to send to Germany, so Uwe has ordered it or bought it, had the seller send it to me, and I'm going to set it up and upgrade the pickup and the bridge to send it on. So that's cool for me, I'm used to doing that. It's a really interesting beast. This looks to me like an AliExpress favourite, and you know what really stands out with this guitar is that headstock shape. Now on the tuners on the back here we've got Clouson Deluxe, and there's no reason, if it's a Chinese AliExpress guitar, there's no real reason to think they're actually genuine, but the issue is whether or not they work okay. The nut has been fitted here with a shim, so somebody's put some time into getting that bit right, so we'll see how well it works out. So the first thing I'm going to do while Morris settles himself down is I'm going to get some power. Yes, I'm going to fire up my phone, try it and get me the close-up pictures. Just bear with me a second. Yes, connect to the DJI Osmo thing. Yeah, got green signal, everything's nice. It's quite a nice sort of device, this. No Osmo found. Really? Found, thank you. Right, double click this and we go into thingy mode, and then we'll get recording. There we have the studio camera, and then we have his handsome ship Mr. Morris. But on the desk bench we have this custom. Now it was described as a custom build, and I don't think it's a home shop custom build. There's some reasons, little signs for that, but I don't know, it could be, who knows. We've got a I don't know what they call, somebody called this tech wood, which is the same as what I've got on some Les Pauls I've made recently. Tech wood neck, which I'm told is a compressed white wood that's dyed as in D-Y-E-D. Yeah, that's right. And anyhow, but it's actually quite playable. I've got it on a few guitars and I don't have a problem with it. So we've got that, which is a sort of very much a Chinese AliExpress, Chinese mass manufactured thing. We have this kind of strange looking safe headstock. I don't know what the King brand is or does, but anyway. So like I say, up close, if I can get a good up close shot, we've got that nut, which is a bone nut by the looks of it, sitting on a little piece of brown wood in keeping. So we may well change that. And then we've got what is actually quite an attractive single pickup Goldtop affair. But there are some blemishes, and you can probably see me highlighting one there. So I don't think that's a home blemish. I think that's a kind of Chinese factory blemish. So there's that bit there, and then there's a couple of little impressions down here. Now you can see sort of lines, little telltale contour lines where some finish has pulled. Anyway, it's all in the paint layer sealed underneath the clear finish. And so what we've got on this guitar is we've got a wraparound bridge, very, very slightly intonated by virtue of being screwed out the back here, but I'm not sure that would be accurate enough for my liking. So what I've suggested is we might put one of these on and give us a full range of intonation for not very much money. So simple affair. I've tried this out. This is quite noisy. It's picking up a lot of hum. So again, if it is as I suspect, an AliExpress guitar, that's not going to be terribly high quality. So what I've recommended is a reasonably inexpensive, but a 40 quid switch out with this stacked humbucker. Not humbucker, stacked P90. I've used these before from John Hornby Skews or Wilkinson, same thing. And actually they are good, they reduce the hum almost completely. So simple guitar, pretty nice looking. Over onto the back, we've got quite a bit of a bleh sort of colour actually, but it's all, you know, pretty fairly decent standard stuff. We've got a little bit of a repair under the clear coat finish here, which is, you know, it's neither here nor there. It's not a bad thing. It looks like a 3-piece or maybe 2-piece. I can't quite see, 2 or 3-piece body, but that's cool. And somebody's sanded back, or very slightly sanded back the neck, but we have a couple of user dents here, which would be quite annoying during the playing of the guitar. So I'm going to fill those in with some fill and finish and sand those out and wire wall it back. Like I say, we've got these things here that claim to be Clouson Deluxe, and well, who knows? I mean, maybe somebody. I don't think somebody built this at home. It doesn't feel like that kind of build. It's too factory made. We've got a slight sort of scoring line down there, or a crack or something. I don't know how well that's to see, but it's no big deal. But it doesn't. It looks pretty factory-ish to me. Anyway, so the job on this is to, I think, first of all, we'll swap over the hardware first on this one, and then we'll do the setup second. Shall we do it like that? Yeah, because then I've got to take care of the nut and I'll take care of the bridge as well. The only question we may have is on this, we may need to hog out a bit more wood out of here, because these noiseless or hum-free P90s are by definition very attractive to cats. By definition, they've got a second coil built into them, and they obviously deeper or require more space than your usual one, but this may be sitting on a bit of fresh air anyway, or a piece of foam, so we'll get into that. So that's a sort of close-up look. Nice gold. I mean, it's got a really nice look about it. Only slight blemishes there, and that's the only faults I can find. You know, this thing about this, given that the typical stop bar as bridge affair requires quite a bit of stagger in that direction to intonate properly, there's nothing essentially on this bar that's doing any staggering, so the only staggering that the thicker string needs in progression upwards has to come from the positioning of the bridge, and it doesn't really seem that much here, so I suspect that wouldn't be very dead on intonation wise. Anyway, that's it for close-ups. What button? Press that button. Hey, put this away. Switch it off. Let's make the thing go away here, if we can. Go away. Yes, yes, yes. Go away. Trouble is you can never quite get to the offish button here like that. Okay, let's put that down here for using another time. Steady. Okay, yeah, so unusually I think I'll do it that way round. Probably my normal way of doing it would be to do the setup bit first, but we'll take these off and we'll use these strings again. I'm not sure if I checked with Uwe what gauge strings we're going to go to, but I'll double check, but I think it was, I can't remember what the last one I did. I did a guitar for him quite a long time back, and that was a, oh, hang on, before I do that, I just wanted to check. The nut, I'm going to do it on a if it ain't broke, don't fix it principle. So realistically, I'm not going to replace that straight off, because it's actually got enough room to just get down to the right height, and if we can open and free up the nut slots while we're at it. The only thing that isn't perfect is just the fact that it's sitting on a little shim. I mean, it's only a visual thing, but it came with the guitar. You know, it's how it is. One thing I don't want to do is mess around and redo a whole complete nut if it doesn't need one. Since the only thing we would improve by doing so would be just to tidy up those edges, and the cost might be, in taking it off, we could do any number of things, including chip off a load of wood off the end of the fingerboard, which this tech wood tends to do. If you chip that nut off and it's glued, you very quite likely will get a chunk of tech wood with it. I've had that happen before and I had to repair that. Okay, mister, down you go. Okay, so here's our replacement bridge. I mean, I'm assuming, okay, it's not the right watts it's for it. I have some of these somewhere. in the packaging. I don't know where it's gone now. Somewhere in my spare parts department. Where did it go, my boy? Is it down in here? No, that's strap. Caught. Strat stuff. Right, unless I can find it, I'm going to have a quick look in here and see if there are any I can use that are doing the rounds until I find the actual other ones that came with this. No. Well, actually, I've got them somewhere, but the problem is I don't know where I've got them. And I forgot to search for them in front. So, what will they sit on? Will they sit on these? No, it goes with the ones it comes with. Right, I'm going to pause and find them. Hold on. Okay, good news. Found them in my box of new parts. Or new bridges. I knew I wouldn't have it separated from it. I wouldn't be separated for long, if you get what I mean. So these fit. There's a sticky up. That's okay. That's the bridge ground sticking up there. There's a leftover. So let's have a quick look. Okay, looks nice. Looks nice. Again, we'll do an angle or backwards thingy. And the only problem with this is these are starting out technically the wrong way around, because this is a unisex bridge, or it doesn't really claim to be one thing or another, but let's get this kind of to the midpoint and see when the time comes what we get in a way of intonation. So I'm going to basically 2 sets of stagger following the normal pattern, 2 patterns of 3. I think I've just killed my batteries on the damn not tuner, that other thing, the amp. Funny, I watched somebody put a comment on one of my YouTube videos yesterday. Are you drunk? They said. And it's, the first thing you feel is, oh God, not another one of those negative, pointless, doesn't add anything to the world comments. And then I thought, no, it's an opportunity for me to use an apocryphal quote from one of our greatest leaders, Winston Churchill. So I said, he said, are you drunk? ? I said, yes, and you're ugly, but at least I shall be sober in the morning. Thought that was a good one. Very quick, Mr. Churchill. Who knows if it was ever him or if he ever did say such a thing. I rather hope he did. Now, I've got a bunch of screwdrivers floating around now that I've misplaced. I'm going to have to find them because I shall need more than this. In fact, I'm probably going to have to go through my bag that's on the floor to find them. Let's tip these out. This will do for now. Morris. Yeah, this is that tech wood, and it has what looks like a kind of staining pattern, which is a bit odd. So what I'm doing now is I'm just taking out the retaining screw, one of them, and then I'm going to flip this over, and we'll just remove the back cover. We'll see what the type of electrics are in the back of here. Ooh! It's got a paper and oil capacity, a sort of black bumblebee. Maybe the previous owner has upgraded this. Again, that's you never know. We'll see what the pickup is saying. That's not bad. It's not bad. So I'm gonna. Oh, Mr. Boy, you are such a sweet boy. Just going to lift this out and just see where it sits at the moment. Okay, it's quite low, or lowly cut, but we can cut further into that. I don't see yet. That's a tone rider. Okay, that's a good quality pickup. Well, it's not that it didn't sound good. It's just it was noisy. So some people would say, well, would you change one of those out? I think, personally for me, and this is what I... Are you eating the foam? You're not that hungry. The reason I mentioned it to Uwe was it's just noisy, you know, and as a single coil is, right? So you've got the problem here that you've got, obviously there's no shielding there, it's just wood, and you've got decent quality pickup for tone, but you've got it in a bridge position, and unless if you want to play high gain, if you're me, you're going to want some hum reduction, because you don't want this, you don't want to flip to a lead with this and have it. So and again, it's a single coil, but there isn't any shielding or anything in the whole deal. So I think I'll do some shielding as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause and I'm going to have a quick word and see, on the basis of the make of the pickup, I can always use one of these somewhere else. I'm going to just double check with Uwe whether he wants to keep this as a tone rider or go for the noiseless thing. That wouldn't, I don't think he would have got that out of AliExpress. I don't know if it's potted or anything, but we shall see. Like I say, it's we'd have to hog out and chisel out a bit of space in here, but that will be easy enough to do. Very simple design. Right, come back to you when I know the answer to this. See you in a minute. We're back again, and yeah, we got the go ahead on the, where's it gone now? Oh yeah, the Wilkinson noiseless. Yeah, I think Uwe is of the same viewpoint. I just noticed, by the way, the solder on that on the grounding on that pickup that I've just unhooked wasn't working as well. It was barely attached, so it just sort of fell off. But hey, so what we've got to do is we've got to find our way out of here. Blimey. God, that is a bit of a... Alright, that's tucked in. Tucked isn't the word, that's jammed in behind the pot. Okay. Nothing's ever simple, is it? Nothing is ever simple. Well, interestingly, again, this may not be appropriate for YouTube, or YouTube may decide or say it's not appropriate, but I was in the gap there. I did a couple of other things, but one of the things, I was listening to the press conference from Downing Street from Boris Johnson and his medical expert chaps, and it was very interesting to hear, sobering to hear the tone finally. Was one of extreme admission. It was a sort of claim that we're moving to a different phase, and that somehow that's going to be, it was all planned. But anyway, that aside, whether it was or wasn't all planned, Boris Johnson began by, one of the first statements he made was to say explicitly, some of your nearest and dearest are going to die before their time, and he said it explicitly, which I thought was pretty straightforward actually. And then they went on to talk about where they saw things were 21. And of course the funny part is I just earlier on posted in a discussion online here on Facebook where some local people, that's amazing, that's only another total of another 5 mils to 26, 5 mils, but that needed some, yeah, we'll put some foam in there anyway, so we'll do the same thing. So what we've got to do is we're going to find the thing, it's down here somewhere. This is where I'm screwdriver here. Hold on a second. Oh, come on. And some ends and stuff. Yeah, we're going to get a Forstner bit and cut this out, cut the channel a bit deeper with that. But that isn't in there, so it's probably, yeah. Yes, so anyway, there were some people doing that thing that people bizarrely sometimes do, and that is they insist that anyone who's talking about this being more dangerous than the flu is just a panic monger. Get a grip, you know, girls' blouses, snowflakes, all the other insults they can hurl. And I've just written a post countering that, and then saying, you know, effectively, look, here are the facts, because I've been following it closely. Here are the facts. Whether you like them or not, it doesn't make any difference. Them are still the facts. So, quite frankly, this is what's going to happen, whether you're cool about that or not. And of course, I expect that to be met with tons of abuse. But I mentioned in the post that you can, I am expecting a ton of abuse from those people who just don't want to face up to this. And of course, 5 minutes later or half an hour later, live to Downing Street, where Bojo and his chums end up saying exactly that. Pretty much exactly the same thing as I posted. I'm not saying that to be clever or anything, just those were the facts, and it doesn't matter how much people don't want to deal with them, they're still the facts. The thing that really bugs me slightly is how to make a post about it and to lay out the facts as clear as as I've got them from other authorities, right? It takes a while. You have to write several paragraphs. One of the things you often get when you take the time to do that is you get a kind of response which the youngsters kind of respond with TLDR, which in dismissive know-it-all teenage speak means too long, didn't read. And that's, if they don't get the information, it's all your fault because you didn't summarize it in one sentence. I.e., it's your fault that you didn't get the point across before the attention span ran out. And that's the most amazing state of affairs we're in now, where people who can't be bothered or haven't got the attention span capable of reading past a single sentence and therefore processing a more complex idea, nevertheless feel entitled to have an opinion on a complex subject, which I find astonishing, really. Like that. Don't use the thing like that. Right, so I've got my little markers on, and I'm going to go down approximately the tune of 6 more mils. And out comes the pencil sharpenings. Okay, spiked myself. Okay, so this is a bit of an interesting one because you don't quite get into the corners with this. And there goes there goes the marker. And there it goes again. But if I keep to the right, same depth as the others now, we should be all right. Yeah. So I don't know, that's a weirdness of they're on the floor. I'll vacuum later. It just seems really bizarre to me that why do you assume you have a good, a meaningful view on something when you can't focus longer than a sentence or longer than a paragraph. It's just bizarre. Thank you. I don't know why they make these so round. They should put more of a square on them, and they're stronger. Stronger when they're not flattened off so much, but yes, anyway, so our Prime Minister has spoken with very sombre news, so let's see how the world reacts to that. Yeah, that's particularly chilling, was that statement that many of you are going to lose loved ones before their time. Bit of a defining moment. Now that isn't biting in, you see. You only got so much range with your forcing a bit. And then you end up having to do the rest with chisels. Get down here, and the problem is you can't quite reach everything anyway. Okay, that is about as far as we get. Now I've taken that down by 5 mils, so there's not enough room for so much sponge. That's okay. We should, I don't know if the holes line up on this one, but I won't worry about that either. Let's get the chisels into play. These were freshly sharpened the other day. Get these sharp metal things out of the way. Things like that. And this. Okay, now we get the hammer of rubber. Obviously we can't get into the corners quite right, but it'll do. Get close enough. Just leaning over a bit so that whatever happens we don't chip the edge of the cavity. And then we'll hoik a bit of this out like that where possible. Yeah, so people will say, do you remember where you were when you heard Boris Johnson declaring world war on the coronavirus? And you go, oh yeah, I was in the shed working on Uwe's single coil, no, one pickup Les Paul custom thing. Oh, would you look at that? It has maybe a little flake. I didn't even touch the side. Oh well, that's the price you pay. Trouble is, what I don't have is a little flake. It's not in here, is it? Let's tip it out. Oh yeah, it is. Hold on, here it is. Talk about mucho annoyance, though. Thank you. That is mostly annoying. Okay, now that has a tiny, thank you, turn it round, a little tiny flake, but we've got it, and she'll put it back in with a small amount of glue. Except it isn't working. I can't get it on the tip of the thing, would you believe? Come on. Thank you. Run into there, the excess. Thank you. Very good. Now we bring this little chap up to meet the place it came from, and very gently place it back in. Now the problem we've got is I can't really put any, oh no, it's gone stuck to the wood before it's done anything else. I was going to say we can't really put any pressure on it or wipe it because there's no way to keep it there. It'll just fall off if I try and do that. So I'm just going to try and seat it in the right place and leave it like that. Well, that's amazing. That didn't even touch the side of the gold for that to happen. Amazing. Okay, so here we go. Meanwhile, I'll just let that set. It's kind of shaggy mahogany or whatever it is. So I'm kind of putting it in and turning it. It might be put the wood under slight torsional pressure or something. But you've got the other thing, got support there as well. As you can see, it's very difficult to manoeuvre bits. I need to hoover. I don't really want to. Oh, maybe I can. Yeah, I can. Hurrah! Like I say, as I was saying at the point where that happened, I was trying to keep the chisel away from anywhere near the edge because that's the hardest bit to do. As you can see, nigh on impassable. Anyway, so you'll see we'll get there, but we have to have it's a shame really because I'd like to be able to do it with a Dremel of some sort, but I can't do it. Damn. Yeah, it's curved as well, which doesn't make things easy. Kind of pretty much about all you can do is go vertically downwards. So what was I going to? Oh, I'm going to do the back of the neck as well. So there's another thing to be done. Fills. So we're going to get the fill and finish out, and we're going to sand back and probably buff out the back of the neck. So at the same time, I'll buff the sand and buff the repair here as well. So it'll be all right. Might use a bit of fill and finish to make sure it's built up. You can see I'm trying to get in there. The thing just, you know, if it jumps even the slightest, you're doomed. Keeping it away from the edges. What I'm going to do once I've done this, do you know what, I should have taken both of these off, and the reason for that is I want to do the inside of the cavity. Since this is a single coil, it needs to be shielded. So we'll paint that. I've got a bit left over from another job, so that'll be cool. But let's take this lot out first, and we'll take the jack socket out as well. These are much finer. Get one of these. So while after the last bit of video, what I did was I took off the nut as planned. No, as I hadn't planned to do, but anyway, I did it, and like I had expected, it's the reason it looks like it's sitting on this has been worn out. The reason I did it is because, as predicted, it was sitting upon a kind of raft of its own broken off wood from the fingerboard. So I think what I'm going to do is keep the nut, we'll clean up the end of the fingerboard, and then we'll put a kind of bone addition to the underside of the nut to bring it back up, because it was too short. Or it will be too short when we clean it up with all the broken wood. So, okay. Nice. That's quite a nicely fitted jack socket. Okay, brilliant. Oh, that's a shame. I'd like to be able to take it all off easily without undoing all the good work, but I suppose I could do that and just keep it out of the way. That's one way of doing it. Could do. Save cutting off that nice unit. So I've got this lump or dink on the back that I've got to tidy up as well, which I'm going to do with fill and finish, my friends. Fill and finish. So that should be alright. We'll leave that there. Okay. Just about right. Probably more trouble than it's worth. I know. Why don't I just take this off there and send it all through? Okay. That's simpler. Let's do that. Okay. It's really difficult to get to any of this without touching anything along the way. So it's desperate to get to the edges. You have to be virtually vertical, well, not virtually vertical, but very high angle of attack. And then the thing's dazzling you as well. That's the other thing about shiny guitars and wiring pick guards. Amazing how little room you've got to work in. So, as you can see, not easy to do. Well, the drilling out part's the easy part. It's this bit. Now the question is, just for a quick check, how does that fella sit in there? First of all, does it fit? Yes, it does. Good. Let's just check the measurement. So, in the centre, we're going to get 20. Centre, we're going to get 20. So we're going to be, actually no, 20. And I think we have to be careful to level this out completely. I can't leave high bits at the edges, or else it's just going to sit up and not work. Yeah, so that's where we are today in the world of magic viruses. And the weird thing of listening to Donald Trump last night shutting down travel from Europe to the United States, which but not UK, as if the UK was virtuous in some way, or not in itself on the brink of a pandemic, which of course it is. Anyway. Let's hope that we all pull together as much as possible. I feel I need to speak to my dad and stepmum, because if they've watched that on the news today, I think they're going to be even more worried than they were before. And they're definitely in every which way in the danger age group, both in terms of the age, but also in terms of, certainly in my dad's case, after having had a stroke years ago, so he's very definitely high risk age group. Okay, well, we got to the bottom of things. I don't think we've got too much further to go. Better to be a fraction lower than not low enough, but then we can always put foam in if we have to. yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? Puts all the ups and downs of fixing guitars and stuff into perspective. You know, when there are serious health threats to health and life. This is never going to be smooth as. Can't really get to that, but we can get as close as we can. I have to keep away from those edges. Sorry, I'm in the way of the view. So I think that's about as much as we're going to get down and on there. So we're going to try and squeeze these through. This is a 4-wire one, so it's not as a coil split, but what it does allow you to do, it allows you to tap. I suppose you could tap the coil part and reduce the output if that is how you like it. Wow, that's snug. Is that failing to let that sit in? Oh God, that is snug. That's because the wire's coiled underneath, goes across underneath. And the reason it goes across underneath is because it's a right-handed pickup in a left-handed guitar. Now I don't know whether it would be worth switching it around. I don't really believe there's anything essentially in these pull pieces or anything that makes a difference, but I also think that's not going to change because it's still going to sit down on itself. I think for the price of beans, I think we probably need to lower this a fraction more on one side anyway. Just a little bit, just so we can get this cable out the way and it doesn't force the pickups to sit too high up. Trying to make sure we don't hit anything as we go. Okay, not a huge amount more, but just a little bit flatter. It's a shame not to be able to leave it looking tidier. Oh my goodness me. Without even touching it, a piece is flaked on there. God, you cannot win. I'm not even, I've got my hand in the way each time, but well, I have some gold touch-up paint, I think, anyway, shoreline gold. This is probably Aztec, more like, but okay, so I have a feeling this isn't really going to sit on, do any foam squashing at this rate. It's probably too, still not quite deep enough. Incredible how hard it is to get to any of this cut without glancing off the edge of that darned fragile paintwork. Let's just have a test again. Cross on the underside. It's so snug. It's almost unfunny. So that then sits down at the lowest point to there. And that's sitting on the wire, because it has to. The question we've got is, where do the strings sit now? Oh yeah, well that's pretty high, so we should be all right. Okay, so we should be able to put a bit of foam under there as well. Out you come. Okay, so I'm going to go and paint the insides of the cavities, and I'm also going to go on the hunt for Gold October and just probably fill and finish and touch up any tiny little edge squeezes, pinches I suppose. We'll catch the news, a bit more news, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, back on. I've spent some of yesterday polishing, no, what did I do? Building up some poly on there where I did a little repair, and then I've sanded it back today and this morning buffed it out so it's nice and shiny. And so the point of all of that is to be back in this position to put the sacrificial strings back on, and we'll get on with the physical setup part. And after that, wire up the new pickup as the last sort of thing. So if you remember, if you can cast your mind back, this is the original nut, but slightly modified and built up. So we're going to use it because it's already got the left-handed slots cut. Now we're going to have to probably adjust them a little bit anyway, but it's better than doing it from scratch with a completely new piece of bone, quite frankly. You can probably see I've got my coronavirus monitoring Bluetooth earplug in. So I learned something from Reloved Guitars Facebooker, who said to me that this a friend of his had this brand of guitar, and it seems like it's somebody who buys kits from the Chinese, or probably in China or from China, and then finishes them off and sells them under this logo. So what I don't really know is whether they what state they buy the kits in, whether it's parts and put them together with their own logo and then do the whole finishing thing, or whether it's you know, the basic finish done with the logo done by the factory in China or whatever. And I think could be one of many options there, because I think the Chinese manufacturers like to do those kinds of deals with people from the West, or they did before all this stuff happened. So there are more than one of these, which is interesting to hear. But either which way, it sort of ties in fairly okay with what I know about it, and that is it's a decent basic condition, but I suppose more importantly it's got some somebody's put some decent hardware on it afterwards, like the tone rider pickup and the electronics, and even the nut. Somebody's had a go at getting it right, although it's clearly splintered off the wood underneath before. Anyway, so I'm just putting these sacrificial strings back on, and the first thing I'm going to do is, now we've got this new bridge on, it's just raise it up to where we need it. It's good, positions quite well, everything's in order. So let's get this up. Come on, up you go. Give this a bit of a stretch. That don't know whether to use springs on this thing or not. This is kind of very tight. That's one of the problems with this. It's sitting on sponge at the moment, but it's incredibly tight. It'll end up being about 5mm underneath, and the only other way we're going to do it is to stick it on some springs, which we could do shortly. Anyway, in the meantime we've got an option, but I'm going to leave it as is because it's not going anywhere, it's not falling out. Or let's have a look. Appear to be, damn it, we haven't got enough lift on this nut. Oh balls, have to do it again. I thought we had enough height on it. I measured it, I checked it with the blade as well, but not well enough. Gadzooks, man. I'm a couple of fractions off. Okay, well, let's get another one out. I'll do this off camera because it's just lots of fiddle, but I'm going to replace the nut. So we will get a new nut after all, but I've got to start with it tall enough, otherwise we'll just be going through the motions again. See you in a minute when I've got the nut done. Okay. Let's adjust this. First of all, let's just check the relief, see what we've got. Pretty flat, but we can still work with that in a minute. Let's just do this bit first. The first fret action. We're just about on the mark actually. Carefully adjusted. Okay, that one. Right. let's do the D. Let's just check also while we're here the gross setting of the last fret action. While we're at it. This is getting a pain, this guitar. Okay, millimeters. And is 1.75, just a fraction high. So we'll come down a tiny bit. Okay, 1.5, 1.6-ish. So I'll come down a tiny bit with the treble side. Okay, that's where I want to be. Such a good feeling. Okay, so we'll go back to our D. Go down. Hurrah, the radio's just told me that we're going to be added to Donald Trump's travel ban. Good stuff, Don. It's alright by me. Going for 0.3. Across all of these. Right on the mark anyway, that one, so we'll leave that. From G now, upwards, quite high. Thank you. Very close. I'll stop there on the upside of close. Oh, banned. Can't go to America. Probably would have worried me a few years ago, but not now. Right, nearly done on this, and then we'll check the frets then. Again, it's been a long time. A little bit more. There's an extra hole here where two different truss rod covers have been fitted at some point, so it does show a bit of workings, this guitar. Close. A little bit more. Right, good. Let's get a note again. There you go. Oh, sorry, looking the wrong way or something. Okay, that's good, that's good, that's good. Now we're going to test the frets. So really, just what I'm looking for now is any buzzes and bends. I'll go that that one's slightly high, which means I bet it will choke out. Well, it's usually the G that chokes out, or the E bent over into the G. Cluster of high frets up here. So let's prepare to get those done, and then we can progress. So I am going to pull off 3 of the strings. I'm going to mark up the fretboard, frets I should say, with marker pen prior to fret leveling. And this is a low action, which is what my customers want. Some people who know better arrive on my YouTube channel and tell me that no real guitarist ever has a low action, and that's cool for their personal taste. The mistake they make is being so arrogant that they feel the need to demonstrate how arrogant they are, how stupid they are, by insisting that's the only position anyone can hold, and of course it's obviously not. So they decide right there and then that all my customers are all wrong and have always been wrong for asking for low actions, because they themselves are capable of playing with high action, and maybe they've read or some blues guitarist told them that's the way it should be. But that's cool, except the arrogance of insisting you know better. And as any of you who've watched my videos know, I can't stand that quality, that personality trait in so many people. I just had one this afternoon, some ass by the name of Bjorn commenting, well, commenting's gives it more respect than it's due, just deciding to comment in Danish. What an idiot he knows I am, and it's just stupidity. dear. People turn up and get their rocks off in this world of ours, where we need to be connecting and respecting more than we need to be winning and insulting in that stupid, ignorant way. And like I say, people who've watched my stuff will know for a long time that it doesn't only drive me nuts, it actually, the truth is, it depresses me. Excuse me, just fetching some errant springs. Yeah, I find it really demoralising actually. It's just, it sort of tells the state of the world. Okay, so I'm ready now to level these frets. Off you go. And I expect to see a fair bit of cutting up here when we get to the uneven frets spot. And I've explained on many a video what it is about the Les Paul construction that leads to this cluster of slightly problematic frets, quite often slightly problematic frets. And it is inherent, it's a design flaw basically. There we go, right there. But you know, people think it's the best invention in the world, so long live the Les Paul. I mean, it's an iconic object, there's no doubt about that. But it's better, but not there. Yeah, it's just a design flaw. They didn't think it out in those days. They didn't have the experience we now have. But so they put a, think about it, they put a truss rod in a wooden construction called the neck, which, when it comes down to it, can't bend uniformly. There's a bunch of low frets here, right? And that's what's causing it, and there's some high frets here and some high frets here. Yeah, so you've got a truss rod which is supposed to counter the curvature or control the curvature. That's fine, done. And of course what it does is it ends up bending 2/3 of the neck, the flexible part, and then it fails to bend the stiffer part, which is this bit up here where it joins the body. So it's not an effective way of, or it's not a uniformly good way of controlling the bend in the neck, but it's the best they've got, and so that's what they do. And as a result, you get a strange little performance, a little hump of your frets, which can often cause this problem at this end. Not only that, there's a sort of, some of the frets in the train or in the sequence end up sitting lower. So it's those frets that sit lower that actually make the following ones effectively high. And that's always the case on any neck. You're limited by the condition of the frets, but the frets' levelness is only relative to each other. So a low one makes the following one effectively high, even if it isn't high compared to the rest of the frets on the fingerboard, but you're working with relative evenness all the time, so you have no choice. So if you've got a low one, you have to level either side of it to bring those down, so you're bottoming out the low one, as it were. And some people ask at what point, instead of lowering others to bottom out a low one, at what point would you pull the low one and replace it with a higher one? And it's a very subjective question, or a subjective judgment, and it is very much a judgment based on experience, and I can't dictate to anyone else when that point would come. Tiny little bit there still. Yeah, so like I say, it's a judgment call, and my experience has been that most of the time it's better to level down than to replace. a whole fret, because it isn't in any way as easy as it sounds to level a new single fret down to the point where it's absolutely level with all the ones surrounding it without damaging them further too. So it sounds like a solution, but it's not. It's not bad. I'm going to stop there. So you can see it's not a massive amount of leveling required, but it is a bit, and it's the precision of this method and the ability to stop when you've reached the level you need to get to. And a simple question of how do you know in this method, you have a guide in this method that you don't have in any other method, and that is, as you keep seeing, I put the string back in and test it, and when the buzz has gone, or the zinging or feel has gone, then I've achieved what I need, and I don't need to level any further. And that is probably one of the most advantageous aspects of this, in that it saves any removal of unnecessary, or any unnecessary removal of fret metal. A tiny bit there. Use that low spot there. I'll pay attention to that end. You can tell the low one because it's 2 here. They're sitting there with no marker pen being taken off them at all, and yet everything around them is losing marker pen. Yep, there it is, the low one. You can see it, you can point it. All I can do is give it one more go up at that point, but we have to leave it at a certain point. There's only so much saving we can do. That is without taking the fret metal down to nothing. So I'm going to give it one more little working at this end, and then we'll stop. The reasons for why those frets are lower than any others can be a number of things. Well, that's the only thing. If we look at the action on this, where that, or the action on it generally on the last fret, it's pretty low. That is coming in at 1.5 millimeters. Just over 1.5, so it is quite low. We can't really get much better than that without hammering away at the frets forever. Now, I'm often known for chickening out too early because I don't like to take it any more fret metal than's necessary. But what I might just do on this one is I just test this calibration. I might go back and do one more with this calibration on it. Yeah, but I'm very cautious about preserving fret metal wherever possible. Probably due for some new stuff, you know, wet and dry stuff, sandpaper. And I'm just focused on this end alone at the moment, and I can see it really isn't touching those. So the thing I was saying is a couple of reasons that can happen. Either possible that a previous owner has stopped there and concentrated there when fret leveling, which can end up with a low spot, or it can be that in the fitting of the frets the wood there was a little lower than everywhere else, and sometimes you can get kind of a little valley in the fretboard, or somebody could swing on the fret press with a bit of extra force. So in a variety of ways, and sometimes you'll never know. I mean, occasionally you'll never know. You can only surmise. But this is pretty good. it's better than it was, and it's going to play much better than it did, so that's the main thing. The only slight downside is that Louis hasn't played this before because it's come direct from a seller, and that's always a little bit of a slight downer for me, in that I do this work and the customer can't feel the difference immediately because they didn't know what it was like before, so you have to take my word for it. But fine, that's all good. Stop there. Okay, so the next stage on this will be to turn the heater on. Hi Morris. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, same as our right-handed process, I'm going to take the strings off, we'll ditch those, and we're going to re-profile these frets. When I first saw this guitar I thought maybe these tuners were pretend cloisons, but judging by the inclusion of the tone rider and the quality pots and capacitor, then I'm kind of willing to believe that they're genuine cloisons. They feel like it, I have to say. They don't feel loose and shaky like the cheap Chinese copies, but that's good. Right. So another Saturday in the shed before possibly the world changes quite dramatically, who knows. Okay, now what I'm going to do at this point, these are dead strings, so I'm going to cut these off and bin them. I can find my cutters. And so the next thing I'll do is to reprofile these frets, and after that, I'm going to take this off, get rid of these, and after that it'll be a case of polishing them out. And once I've polished them out, which I'll do off camera because it's boring, I will then fit the, I'm going to fit springs actually in a minute on this while the bridge is off, but yeah, I'll, stabbed. I will wire up the pickup. It's very simple, although it's a 4-wire pickup as mentioned before. We'll just leave 2 wires taped off, and we'll just use the basic 2 wires without having any coil tap functionality, which is really wouldn't be any much use, because all it would give you is a power drop. Wouldn't really be much of a tonal difference. Now I'm just going to brush off this fret dust at the moment, getting out of the way. You'll notice I put quite a bit of tape on here because I wanted to do a bit of fret edge work as well, which I've done actually indoors with some sandpaper. You can see on here actually what I noticed before on this tech wood. It's a stain look. It looks horrible when it's dry like this, but actually when you oil it, it does go away, which is pretty good. You know, it's not an ideal material. It's not anywhere near as attractive as rosewood. It doesn't have the character, doesn't have the same wooden feel. It feels like something slightly fake. But I understand why they did it. You know, it was probably a mixture of, well, it was a mixture of sites induced workaround, but also probably a much cheaper way of doing things for them. Okay, I'm going to use the medium end on here because I think these are fairly medium jumbo frets, and I'm just looking to reshape any flat spots off these frets, and the marker pen helps me check where I've cut and where I haven't with this file. And of course the objective is to leave a small thin line of marker pen down the centre, because that will then tell us that I haven't lowered the fret, which then won't upset the relative levelness, which is of course what we were after the whole time. So what I'm going to do after this is I'll mask everything off, then I'll polish all this out, and including these edges. I've already done that, as I say, with 240 grit sandpaper, and then with 600 but I'll go through all the grades that are used for polishing the frets on the edges too, so the whole thing is softer. Again, not something that Uwe will know because this is a new guitar to him, but it's definitely something that would feel nicer to play, and it certainly feels nicer than it did when it arrived. But he'll have to take my word for it. A little bit on that one there, a bit flatter than the others. Okay, so mask this off, polish it out. Boring, long drawn out process, but it's absolutely necessary. That's that one. So I'll come back when I've finished polishing this and we're ready to wire up the new pickup, or put these components back in, wire them back in. I can't quite believe what I've just heard on the radio. So this video, you won't be watching this, probably. If you are, it won't stay up for long. I've just heard on the radio that YouTube, Google, has said that it will remove any videos that mention the word coronavirus. Can you believe that? Right? And it's ostensibly, right, because of fake news, right? And the so harmful stuff of people having opinions, crank opinions, some of them, right? Or people offering crank cures or whatever, potions and stuff, right? Now, of course, the world is full of cynical, abusive, manipulative people, right? But to shut down any mention, to control discussion, the English language, or any language, frankly, but for me, to control my language, to police speech, so that I can't mention it in a conversation with you while I work on guitars, in a world in which we are all suffering the effects of this outbreak, and some moron, some politically inept dictatorial moron in Facebook, or Google in this case, thinks that his advertiser base is so freaked out, or he's so against, or so fearful of regulation, governmental regulation, that's what it is, right? So fearful of it that they'll do almost anything at the expense of genuine free speech and democratic free speech. It'll commit any crime against that, rather than run the risk of government cracking down regulation on its head, because it cannot afford to lose its advertising revenue. So better to delete every single video that mentions the coronavirus than to run the risk of losing a couple of dollars or being interfered with by government and thereby losing some advertising revenue. I have to tell you, it's no surprise, right? It's at times like that you are rudely reminded yet again that this environment belongs to the people, the company, Google. Right? This ecosystem belongs to Google, nobody else. And if anything you do threatens their revenue, you are screwed, right? And so, whether it's a bot that reads or goes through and checks my use of the word, or whether it's a human being, I hope it's a human being, because I'd like a human being to at least be challenged when they check this. Well, they probably haven't got any interest in doing it, but I would like a human being to be challenged insofar as reminding them what an utterly destructive and stupid thing they will be doing when pursuing this move. this so-called, I don't know, is it a virtue? It's not even virtue signalling, I don't even know what the word is. You know, this misguided pretense at protecting the naive, the criminally naive, who can't tell the difference, or can't read enough of their own information and make enough sense that they'll be gullible and likely to buy somebody's snake oil, you know. But because some people are vulnerable, these cretins will be shutting down everybody else's free speech. Oh well, no, that's okay. This will never see the light of day, and I shall either have to go back and edit any mention of it out, which I absolutely can't be asked to do, because that's not where it doesn't pay me anything. Then it'll disappear and I'll get some sort of thought crime strike against me, probably, on behalf of, from Google, that I've been engaged in subversive subjects, talking about subversive subjects. Right, this is really annoying. I'm trying to sheath this off, but it's just doing the exact opposite of what I need it to do. Would you please just, perhaps I'll use a bigger one. Anyway, so I could probably just stop doing it now, because if it's going to get zapped, I'm just wasting my time talking to myself anyway. Could be listening to the radio instead. What I was doing here was just locking off or covering up, rendering safe the, what do you call them, the split pair, or the coil, yeah, I suppose the coil tap pair, so that that's not going to touch out on anything, because we don't need it for anything. Okay, so let's put the thingy on, our hot thing. Let's get the other hot thing on here. I can't tell you how, I don't even know what the word is, demoralised possibly, how disgusted I am with that. It happens every now and then, and I sort of forget about it, and you carry on and you get what you can, or what you need out of using Google's stuff, and you sort of forget the crimes against normality until they do it again, and then you're sort of rudely reminded of it. Okay, so this has not got, I'm missing another one of these grippy washers, so let's see if I've got a spare one. Anyway, it's if it stays up, that'll be funny, but I doubt it will, if they're as thorough as they claim to be. But yeah, it's just it's quite an astonishing thing, really. I always found it extremely troubling, and it's just, it does remind me each time that we're living in a, you know, when we use these digital things, we're living in a fake, illusory freedom. You know, of course it's not there for our benefit. Of course it's only exists to provide, you know, the advertising backdrop, or environment, whatever you want to call it. But you know, we don't. It's not here for us to have the freedom of speech or the ability to communicate with each other. That's a sort of secondary consideration, really, or a convenient byproduct. Anyway, I just, you know, the idea, the very idea that we're not allowed to discuss that subject on this medium, it's frightening. It really is frightening. And I know, like, you know, it's It would be like if you went into Donald Trump's golf club and then complained that you weren't allowed to talk about, I don't know, talk about Marxism or something, or whatever you wanted to talk about. You know, it's his property. Why should you be allowed to discuss anything you want? You play by the rules or you get out. I guess that's the way it works. But just it's shocking when I see it happen like that. This is a very difficult fit. It does not want to do what I want it to do. Anyway, yeah, so we're kind of stuck with it really. That's, you know, if you want to use the carry on with your Google business, inverted commas. Right, these things don't look like they had grip washers on them anyway, because there's not enough room. So we'll ditch those. Yeah. So I'm probably just, it's funny the thought, I'm probably either I'm wasting my breath, or if these words get through, then I'm guilty of subversion of some terrible kind, for which I can expect to be struck off at some point along the way, when the systems, the powers that be, discover my transgressions. Madness, man. Right, where the hell is the... Thank you. This is an unbelievably fiddly little pile of stuff going on in here. No wonder that the solder joint wasn't very strong, because I wouldn't be surprised if that came undone. Oh, look at that. Very tough. Let's just get these done up. Despite being left-handed, I wonder, I haven't checked, but I wonder, or I can't remember, whether these actually turn in the correct way for left-handed. I'll have a look, see if it makes any sense looking at them from in there. Yeah, I mean, when I started using computers and stuff, obviously way back when, and I taught a multimedia subject in university when it was, you know, first the big thing, and computers did, what do they call it, you know, hypermedia I suppose was the key word at the time, and yeah, it was all the big thing. But I used to, you know, those kind of those issues used to really fascinate me back then. I always was thinking about, you know, who controlled what and so on, and where the power lay and all that kind of stuff. And I always remember that the students I was teaching were never that bothered. They just wanted to use the stuff, and it seemed to be a particular generation, i.e. my generation, that had concerns about the, I suppose, the ethical, the philosophical concerns or worries about power and control and all of those things that university type people always get off on. I'm just looking at these. These look a bit... These right length, just about. Yeah. So, but yeah, even in those days, as I say, I was always seen as though, God, what are you going on about that for, sir? Oh, they called me that, but you know, seemed to be the odd one out. I haven't bothered about it. So we've got 3 of those, and we're missing a 4th one that looks the same. There's 3 little ones. Ah, come on. 2 big ones for the back plate. Got 3 the same, and that one pretending to be the same, but it's not quite as long as the others, but I best use that one. Yeah, I was always the guy that wanted to think about for example, I used to talk about, you know, I used to ask questions about when people advertise on the web, you know, and advertising sort of works off keywords, and I was always saying, how will the advertisers have any control over who they're pitched next to, or the context, you know, that their stuff appeared in? And because I thought that's quite important. You know, if I was an advertiser and paying hard cash to have my, I don't know, gentleman's expensive watch, the last thing I wanted is to have it appear next to, I don't know, somebody talking about starvation in Africa. Maurice, what are you doing up there? You know, it wouldn't be a good juxtaposition. And, you know, I think Private Eye, the magazine in the UK, always does a, I think called Malgorithms column, I think it calls it, where it sort of shows the most useless connection or combination of things that you really it shouldn't be together, but the algorithm, Google's algorithm, rather clumsily puts it together, which is always quite funny. But you know, stuff like that used to really fascinate me about how that worked, and how would anyone keep control of that in this future world of Google, and nobody else gave a damn about it. Sir, can you show me how to use multimedia and make a animation, this kind of, that kind of? They just wanted to get on and play with it and use it. Didn't want some old fart talking about it and asking questions. Boring, as Nick Abbott would say. Morris, you picked the wrong time to come here, old chap. I'm gonna have to help you down. What a good boy. Go out again just now. So anyway, so this is a bit constricted in here. I probably might have been better off. I may have been better off attempting to remove or add things with. Come on, sucker. I can't even see what I'm doing now. I'm pressing against the side of the pot. No, the side of the cavity. I'm trying to remove this doesn't even work. Trying to remove some old solder, old wire I should say, but I can't see what I'm doing. Literally, this won't come out. It's stuck in there. I shouldn't have put it in. Oh Jesus, Morris, get out of here! Come on. Out. Out. Come on. Go on, out. Please. It's not the time or the place. Right. So this is me trying to unhook this piece of cut off wire, and it isn't wanting to come out no matter how many times I soften the solder. He said, trying one more time. Come on. Yes. Not ideal, but it'll have to do. Yeah, so like I said, nobody gave a toot about all those theoretical issues. They just wanted to get stuck in and use this stuff and create fab things with it. Don't blame them in some ways, you know. Right, now I've got a ground wire. So I'm going to ground these two. Are they grounded together? Earth to earth, earth to earth, yes. So I've got a common earth, and I'm going to put a bit of more solder on the top here if I can get in. This is the problem when you're in a cavity working into a hole like this. That's why, and pretty sure why, the previous occupant or solderer made such a lousy solder joint that came off earlier on previously. And it's because it's very difficult to get in and get the heat onto something. So I'm going to now get this heated up again and attached to this. Because of course the whole pot acts as a massive great heat sink. And there you go, I've just lost a connection again. Oh, you useless thing. said, not swearing at all. So I've lost my grip, I've lost my sanity here. Get in there, and please stay in there. Nope, I've just got no dexterity with this type of pliers. Come along. Can't see anything, can't hold anything, can't get any force on anything. It's a bit of a mess. So what you want to do really is take the pots out, do it that way. That way you can be much more certain of a good connection. But if you, it may be not so good if you haven't got much room to fit them in without twisting all the wires again, because the likelihood then is you end up breaking something off. I've just done that thing again where I pick up a blade accidentally while picking something else up. You couldn't make it up. Not even Friday the 13th, that was yesterday. Right. Again, this is just a little precaution, not usually necessary because it's only a ground wire, but when you're in a hole, who knows what you might touch. So as a sort of force of habit really, in confined spaces, I would much prefer to have a shrink tube on there rather than not. So what I'm just going to do is put a little bit of solder on this one prior to, we're going to attach this to the top of the volume pot. Nice big blob of solder to give it a head start. Now I've got to get this little thing, this little loose thing here is a bridge wire, bridge ground, and that's got to go to the top of the pot as well. Or as some people would like to or would prefer, it goes to some union, a nice common union that you've established. It could be a little multi-block thing that you put inside and all the earths can go to that instead of trying to go down in the hole, but we're kind of in the hole as it is. So the kind of most important thing about this one now is that this hot has to get into that hole and has to attach comfortably to this hot lug, which is sort of like there, but it's so far down in a fire in the hold sort of thing that actually I'm losing any sense of being able to see it, so I'm going to have to mess you around a minute. I'm sorry about this, but I need to see more than you do at this point in time. Okay, so we've got our groundy bit and we've got our hot lug, our positive, and that has to come in there. God, it's hard to manipulate this in a hole, it really is, especially with crap tools. Oh boy, that is, it's like, I don't know what it's like, but it's it drives me bonkers trying to manipulate things when the pliers don't respond. Okay, so now I can get a bit of solder onto that. You can get a good strong fix down there, and I can see it in the light even though you're probably a bit dazzled. So here goes my pickup hot to the lug of the pot, nicely attached. Now we've got to get the ground down, and technically we probably want to go to this volume pot, but we could also go over to the tone pot as well, since there's already a bit of ground stuff going on there. It wouldn't hurt, but I can't get in now. I've got bloody wires sticking in the way. Maybe. Jeez. This is so difficult. I will go towards the edge of the pot In fact, we won't do that. We'll try and do this. You hold that there. Okay. And we'll try and put this. And you can't because the bloody pliers are too long. Right. We'll try and get that one onto its friend on the edge of the pot. Much more likely to get a good bite for the heat on the edge of the pot. Okay, so now we have that down, we've got the earth down, and we've got this one little bridge ground to fit, and now we've got a bit of space right down in there. And we don't really, I suppose we can we'll load the end of it, although we don't need all of this wire, but we'll use the end to stick some solder on if we can. Can't really hold much because it's not got much load bearing strength, but there you go. Now down there and here we have its, oh, okay, right, that was the original point of fixing, which was the braid of the original braided pickup wire, and that really didn't stick very well onto the pot top at all. So we're going to have to just give this some chance to melt right down. Otherwise we'll be just back in the same place again. And it really doesn't want to do it very well because it's not at the edge of anything. Come on. Come on, just get that heat through. It's really hard. Okay. Oops, sorry. Okay. While you're getting blinded, what I'm going to do is I'll put a bit of tape across there, which we'll use as our shield for the inside of this. Not copper, but it will do. Still metallic and still conductive. Okay, and then we'll stop and tidy up before we restring. But I'll do a little quick check on the amp just to make sure we've got this working. Hard to handle this foil. Oh, hello, you're back. Okay, so this is as good as we'll get, but it's better than none, which was what was there before. Thank you. Oh man. Some days, some things just don't go your way. Okay, so there's our what's it? We'll get 2 of those in there and then we'll be ready to do a quick test. So we've got a stacked P90 and this time we've got shielded air cavity, which is, I've got a jumper wire going across which connects it up, so it should absolutely be shielded and therefore a little bit quieter than before. Or it's not the right day or time to hang that up in here really. Just saying. Okay, so what I'll do is just test this and then we'll move on. Right. Volume on, volume down, 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 power on. Take the stupid effects off, please. Tone, middle, gain, up, acoustic, no delay, nothing. Hard to hear. Yeah, it's quite mild, that tone, but that's what it's fitted with. I don't know. Russian or something. Okay, that's me for now. We'll hang this up, tidy up, come back and put the strings on. Okay. Oh, and we've also got to oil the neck and everything. Right, see you in a minute. Here we are. Is it running? Yeah, running. Well, it's in the morning time and we're going to fit the strings and check with Uwe, and he wants 10s. And I'll get those on now, rub a bit more oil into this tech wood fingerboard, and then we will be ready to take the guitar indoors and start the packing machine up. We've got 3 guitars to go out tomorrow morning, hopefully. I mean, virus willing. Czech Republic, US of A, and Germany. Okay, so here's our 10. Funnily enough, I'm wearing this thing because yesterday I spent the evening playing a sweet old favourite of mine on the guitar, which was Till There Was You by the Beatles. Yes, the Beatles. Actually, it was written by someone else. Upside down guitar, come on brains, this way. But I love the Beatles version, so I learned to play it. Sometimes just pick an odd song and sit and play it to kind of get it lodged in the brain. And did that yesterday. But all the Fs, everything was bar chorded all the way. And after about an hour of playing it almost repeatedly, I found myself in some discomfort. Now, shortest, longest. I was just going to get these the right way around before I commit this to the thing. What have we got? We've got little Phillips's. Thank you, Morris. So let's just get this right. Longest ones, so back to front. So these default to right-handed setups. Understandably, I'm not criticising them for it. Yeah, shortest. Come on, you can do it. Opposite way. Something like that. So back to front way. Anyway, yeah, so I was playing Till There Was You a lot. The way you do when you just get something and sort of stick it in your muscle memory. And yeah, my old bike crash war wounds kicked in, but it was fun anyway, I don't care. Hence the little supporty thing today. So I don't know, partly not even sure why I'm continuing with this video, since it won't see the light of day if it gets picked up by the coronavirus police. You know, the ones who just want the standard view to be allowed out into the world. I mean, it sounds on the surface rational, you know. Oh yes, we'll stop these terrible fake newsers, you know, those people who peddle cures, Alex Joneses and all that sort of stuff. And you think, oh yeah, we don't want that getting out, and innocent, naive, vulnerable people getting hold of fake cures, or you know, that sort of stuff. And I get it, you know, that's understandable, but unfortunately censorship is not the way to counter stupidity, you know. Right, so what we've got to do is get this on. They're not loose exactly, but there's a little bit of upward movement allowable. Right, so we get these, we pull back a fret's worth, and then we wind them on. And that's funny, I never really figured out until recently that left-hander 3-a-side guitars use standard tuners, same as right-hander, so which is not the case on 6 in a line. That's so confusing. So it means, unless I'm completely crazy, it means every left-hander plays a Strat guitar either has left-handed guitars fitted, has left-handed tuners ideally fitted, and tunes upwards in one direction, and then when they switch to a Les Paul style they have to reverse their logic to do the tuning. And we've made left-handed people do that the whole time because we don't make a complete back to front set. We can put them on the other way around and make it the right way, but you get them upside down. And I assumed that would have been fixed. In other words, there was a set of tuners made especially for left-handers to put on their Gibson, but there aren't. It's just one of those things, how would you ever know unless you were a long-suffering left-hander who had to switch and adapt and learn their tuning techniques in a way that we right-handers don't have to. It seems very unfair. Anyway, it took me a while to figure it out. Yeah, there's lots of little signs of use around about this guitar. Also signs where somebody's chipped a bit of something out. Maybe, I don't know if it's under the... No, it's not under the finish. It's above the finish, so it's in possibly widening the... or putting the ferrules in, or something's chipped. But small details really. Oh yeah. Anyway. Yeah, let's get back. Nearly ready. With these bridges you just have to make sure before you start playing that all the strings are on their little notches in the bridge, because otherwise they often sit just to one side. Right, so I think once I've done this, we're going to check the intonation and adjust it. Stretch out the strings as well, which is critical. Check the height of the pickup, the new pickup. But once that's done, then I'm going to be getting a lot of this bubble wrap into the house to pack 3 guitars. Luckily, my local bike shop, Martin and Lorna, had some boxes for me last week, so I'm good in cardboard. Come on, under you go, backwards, now under, thank you. fix it all. All looks good. Ding. Ding. So I'm listening on the radio at the same time to sort of, this is measured now as on LBC, but I'm sort of just keeping tabs on what people are saying from different places about the state of lockdown or otherwise in their countries regarding the virus, of which nobody must speak. Oh no, the word virus, that's got me done. Right, so first things first, you get a bit of an overall bedding in stretch done. With this, I'm very happy with these fixes here. Absolutely indiscernible. That's a beautiful finish job. They were big dents, but now they're filled in, and that's what I really like being able to do. It's a shame this isn't quite as good a repair on here, but I've done the best I can, short of finding a matching spray and spraying a whole area. Oh God, I hate these strings. You've got to wind on further than I've just done. Damn it! I think I'm going to be in trouble now with this one. In fact, I think this is just. Oh, I think tens. Have I got tens? I might have a spare 10. Why did I? Why? Oh, why? Problem is this this 10. I went through a whole fret's worth there, and that is not enough to withstand stretching. Damn it! I could kick myself. So now we've got, having cut it off like a fool, we've now got two. That's not even gripping it. We've got too little room. That's an absolute B in the P in the B. B in the P, whichever. Hello. So getting the string through is one thing, holding it in place and locking it in some way. So maybe I need to readjust my expectations because let's put can I put a crimp in this in any meaningful way to stop it going through? Yeah, you need a bit more than a fret's worth to stop this damn thing going through. Nah, it's going to ping off. I don't think I can get a grip on it. No. Piss. Sorry. That's a waste of a set of strings. Blast it. Oh. Right, there we go. Pack of strings. Goodbye. It gives me a chance to do something I haven't done before. There are some strings here. I want 10s. Anyone got a 10? If I can find a set with a 10, these are perfectly good, except the ball thing at the end doesn't hold on very well. So a tab of solder was a solution that somebody proposed to me the other day, and I hadn't thought of that. No, it's not a 10. I have a 10 here somewhere. Yeah. Oh, look, there's a set missing a 10 as well. This is me out of strings if I'm not careful. No. What gauge are these? Well, quite frankly, if I don't get a 10 out of these, I'm stuffed with it. Oh look, I haven't even got a 10 in it. I'm just trying to think if I got anything I'm going to put on myself. No, I've got, oh, hellfire. Ow, that's breaking, cutting my hand in a way I don't need it to do. Okay, that's not going to work. I've just sliced myself. So we need a 10. Come on, help me out. Why is it when you want to set 10s you've only got bleeding 9s? What do you want, Fat Face? That's Fat Face. He's not our regular cat. Well, he is our cat. He's the inherited one. But he is big. And we're not fat shaming him. Don't anybody get. He came to us with a fat face because he had a massive abscess, right? Which is why why he got his name. Right, so I have to lose this string. Blast it. So I now am short on strings. Nothing I can do. I've got one set of strings. I'm going to have to put a really expensive set of strings now on a customer's guitar going out to the States instead of a regular set of strings. That's his gain, my loss, as a result of this gosh darned thing. Right, I'm going to learn for the last time more than a fret's worth on the high E. I don't know why I got caught out like that. Fret's worth 1.5. Okay, he's just sitting there. Sometimes what happens is as you twist it round, the E pulls back a little bit while you're doing it. I think that's what happened there, and so I ended up with too little to grip, and it's very, very unforgiving. You don't have a lot of room. Oh Christ alive, what is happening to me here? Come on, please, don't do this to me. It's like it's fighting me. Right, that's got a bit more now than I'd wanted to, just to be safe. But hey. That's I don't buy strings in singles, so when I break one or something, screw one up like that, it costs me a pack, which I'm annoyed by. Okay, so coming back to this, bit of basic stretching to get it on. Okay, now we go for a basic first tuning. Get everything the right way around. Let's turn it around because this is really confusing me. Right. Okay, let's get back to where we were. So, thing to do now is stretch out these strings as much as we can, bearing in mind how much it costs to replace them. So I'm going to do some stretching this way, and then we'll just tune up, and then we'll check the intonation. Now if the intonation's grossly wrong, then what we'll need to do is adjust it with the strings slack. Right, let's do let's do an intonation check now, so that we can make the gross adjustments if necessary before going any further. Now we can do this lying down, if you get what I mean, with the thing lying down, guitar, that's the thing, lying down for this point. All right, everything open. Oh, shit, I don't believe it. These haven't been wound, these have not been wired left-handed. They're right-handed pots, wired right-handed. Sorry. As the ones on Ui's last one would have been, so I'm not going to adjust them. Right, let's try a... Let's put this up on its side and have a look. I think it feels quite close to the mark. Bit of paper there. It's too low at the moment, but hey. Right, action's too low, so we need to make an adjustment. Okay, yeah, right. That's sub 1mm. So that's moved while the bridge was off. That's okay. To be expected. We want 1.5mm on this last fret. Still got more to go. We get it with the counterclockwise turning. It's quite stiff under load, so we just need to be aware of that and have a good screwdriver that isn't going to skip and scour and crunch up everything. That's a fraction too low still. Okay, let me just check this. We want 1.2-ish. That's under 1, so that's still too low. Now the reason I'm going back to where I set it during the fret leveling is because if I go any lower, there's no point. I will get buzzing frets because we've leveled to a specific playing action, so there's no point going lower because I haven't taken away that material. That's very close. Is that on properly? No, it's not on. That's why it's not intonating right. How cool is that? Yeah, that's pretty good actually. Gonna call it good. So a bit more stretching to do. That's good. That's much. Actually, if we went back and looked at the difference in position between those intonation points here now and what it was on the original bridge in the photograph. In fact, I'll take a photograph. Take a picture and sort of compare the two, because it's quite a way off. So you wouldn't have been getting anywhere near intonation out of that single uncompensated stop bar acting as bridge. And of course, the reason why is it can't do it. It's just gross. It's trying. Alright, we need a little bit of work here. There's tiny binding in the nut slot to take care of. It's really critical. We don't want any pinging at all. No resistance. No resistance. Resistance is futile. And linear and D. See that? Ping. So take care of that. And that's what will interrupt your tuning. That's the main enemy of your stable tuning, is that little ping, because it means the string is getting caught up in the nut. Oops. So again, some more stretching, and then when we get it stabilized, what are you doing? When we get it stabilized, what's that? What the hell is that? It's making it. That's not good. Double check that. Yeah, when we get it stabilized, then we can take it indoors and get it ready for the packaging cycle. So, tuning and listening for any pings. Right, that D is stuck. That's amazing. So what you want to do is when you're taking down or widening the slot so there isn't going to be sticking, you have to do it without lowering it any further, otherwise we end up with the string hitting the first fret. So it's quite a delicate operation. So on a guitar like this, now we've got to there, what we might want to do is get a bit of 600 grit and the blade, and just go into the slots. Something like that. Go into the slots and we can just smooth it out. So in case there's any little sticking bits. Who was that? Oh, there's Morris. Yeah, in case there's anything that's just catching it, this very gently smooths it out as a final thing. Again, we're very careful not to file down the front edge because we don't want to lower that anymore if we can help it, but we're looking to just smooth out this slot. Now you can do that with your expensive Japanese nut files. That's another way of doing it. These days more and more I'm working with these with the cheap jeweler's file and getting it down to the right sort of place and then finishing the job with a little bit of sandpaper. Sometimes I use the nut files since I got them, but actually they're nowhere near as good as the people make out. They're not. Now one of the reasons for that is that they, I think if you're going to get them, I would recommend the Hosco ones over the Japanese Hiroshima ones. And the reason why is that the Japanese Hiroshima ones look the business, you know, they've got the right pedigree, they're from a sort of Japanese precision manufactured, blah blah blah, but they are so thin that they bend, or without fail they bend as you use them, and as soon as they bend, the line that you're cutting in your nut stops being straight, and it's only imperceptible, but as soon as it stops being straight and gets a wiggle in it, then basically you're in a situation where the string is getting bound as it goes through, so that we don't want that. So all that you need is a slot that isn't dead straight, right? Because a dead straight, or one that thins as you go upwards, which is hard to do, but anything that's dead straight or gets thinner as you go up the channel, if you like, there's where your string sits. If it's like that, tighter, it'll bind it. You want a notch because it can't bind, everything above the string can't bind it, and then you want to make sure that the bottom of the notch is smoothed out to let the string move with as little friction as possible. And once you've got that right, then it will stay in tune. And you'll also notice when you do this, the ones that aren't quite working right, they'll either ping at you, or, there goes my batteries, let's get rid of that. They'll either ping at you, or you'll pull them and they'll go out of tune, whereas the ones next door won't. So at the moment there's still a problem with this A. So I'm going to go back in that with a little bit more, wherever I put the blade. I'm going to do a little bit more with the blade in the A slot. Now if I want to, I can get the, you know, I could just as easily get my standard set of what sits out nut files, and I can just say, right, let's go into the A slot here, and I'm just widening it, and I'm definitely not cutting down the depth any further, and we go, and then we'll try it out again, pull it. So really, it's kind of, there you go, look at that. It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there. Right, so don't get precious and don't get all hooty-tooty, highfalutin, no, you know, whatever, you know, arsey is the way that we'd say in Britain, because it just doesn't matter. Get there how you can get there, so that the guitar stays in tune. That's what matters. Right, I don't need my soldering iron on, so that can come off. Noise. Strings on, everything done. Right-handed pots, I'm afraid, but I'm going to leave it that way because to rewire it, to get under the hood and rewire that, means taking it all out again. And it's, I suspect that Uwe isn't used to playing with, believe it or not, with left-handed wired pots, if he's judging by the other guitar that came through. The Baker's Les Paul copy. I remember it. It was when we got under the covers, under the pickup ring covers, I remember the routing looked like it had been done by hand. Well, it had been done by hand, it didn't look like it. So I had some fun with that, kind of marvelling at how cheaply could you make a guitar, or how crudely could you make a guitar. And that was a sort of early experience, or early exposure to Chinese guitars for me. But you know, by the time I finished it, I really liked it, because it was a lot of work to rescue it from being a bit of a pile of caca. Now this, out of interest, this I'm just going to put a tiny bit of bevel on these, not because it's not countersunk screws exactly, but they are a little bit, they're not entirely flat headed, so a tiny bit of sink would help. Right. Oh, somebody's shooting at me. Okay, so this nut is a tiny bit narrower probably than, well no, it's the same, pretty much the same as before, but from the original nut that was fitted, this nut that we've reused or booted and suited, it's a little bit thinner than, narrower than the that way, than the gap cut for it, and short of filling in the truss rod cover holes and re-drilling them, it's probably just easier to just go with as it is. But just that's why it has a little gap at the back. If it was a different paint colour, it would be smart to fill it with black or whatever the paint was, just so it doesn't stand out. But this is a natural finish, so there's not really anything that's going to solve that gap. Okay, we're done. Look at that. I'm so pleased. I'm so proud of those repairs. They are flawless. You can't make them utterly invisible, but what you can do is you can make them invisible touch. That's a Genesis album tour. Anyway, there we are. Wilkinson noiseless thingy. And a couple of tiny little repairs. Funny enough, the little repairs on here are bigger than they needed to be, and if I had my time again, I would constrain the amount of where I put the flake down, but it was really hard to manipulate it. Is more flake than I needed to cover up that little tiny dink on the edge. But it went down and I went over it with poly, and that was the end of that. So there we go. Nice. Lovely. Ready to go. Thanks for watching. See you again.